Okay, well, we've got them all here tonight. And first, Laurie McQuarrie, who is the executive producer of Madam Secretary. Laurie? And the person who thought the whole thing up, Barbara Hull, who is the creator. And the guy who is the lucky husband of Madam Secretary, Tim Daly. And then, of course, the Secretary of State. She was my date, I have to say. Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. In order to pull this off, I had to get Tim a date with Madeleine Albright. So there we were, all double dating there at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. A lot of fun. Taya Leone. I'd just like to ask all of you, what do you think of the White House Correspondents' Dinner? It's unlike any event that I've ever known about.
I just want to know, they serve 2,300 people a full meal and put on a show. That is amazing producing.
Of course, that's what the glory. It was really fun. I have to say, I don't know if anyone saw President Obama's speech, his roast. That was... I think I forever, when I hear bucket, will have a very it was really fun.
What do you think, Jim?
Well, it was my 9th time, so
you've been there.
I've been there a lot, and I'm a little jaded about it. But the beef was pretty good. No, the one thing that they've all had in common for me is that the president is always funnier than the comedian. It's just, that's the way it goes. I guess because they're the president and they get the comedy writers first. So.
I think they make a great mistake there in putting on the comic after the president. The president should always be the last act because I don't care who the president is. He's the star.
He's a tough act to follow.
And who wants to, it's like following an animal act or something in the circus. I mean, you're just not going to
just like it.
Yeah. It's like they say, never act with children or animals. And probably maybe presidents.
Maybe the president.
Yeah.
Presidents also.
What do you think?
Oh, I thought it was all it was cracked up to be. I was completely starstruck. It's like the one place that people from Hollywood are starstruck. It's, and it was just really impressive. Just happy to be there. It's great.
I've always thought that there's a greater similarity between Washington and Hollywood than between, say, New York and Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people always ask me, what is the similarity between the two parties? And I have come to say it's the same zoo, but different animals.
Very much. I think
was,
that's a very good way to do it. Well, let's talk. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I thought it was quite extraordinary to be with you, Bob, and Secretary Albright and see the crowds part as they walk through. I was just happy to be in your presence there.
Well, I tell you what, Madeleine Albright got us up close to the building to get out of the car, and everybody else was having to walk a block to get in. So I've already invited her back. Well, let's talk about this show. It is just extraordinary. And people in Washington, we always watch these shows about Washington because we want to see if you get it right. And I must say, Madam Secretary, it's 95%. That's the way it is. And it really is remarkable. Barbara, how did you think this up? What gave you the idea of doing this?
Well, actually, Laurie McQuarrie and Morgan Freeman came to me. They had already come up with and sold the idea of a female Secretary of State based on Laurie's viewings. One day it struck her watching the Benghazi hearings that what is it like when she goes home? What is the rest of her life like after a day like this? And so I came in and I basically said, I love the idea of this. I love woman in a man's world. But I need a fish out of water element, so it can't really be any of the secretaries of state we've known. It has to be our own creation. I wanted to give her an understanding of international relations that comes from something more hands-on, so that's how the CIA idea came about. And then the really important thing for us was to contextualize it all well, as Lori brought up with the home life. What's it like to have a day like that and then go home and still be a mother? And then the element of the inner office politics to me was very important, and that's how it all came together.
How have you managed, and I'd be interested in whoever wants to talk about this, how have you managed to keep it from becoming polarized? Because if there's anything we know about Washington right now, it is polarized. I've been in Washington for 46 years. I have never seen it as bad as it is right now. The partisan divide is wider and deeper than ever. Tim and I were talking before we came out here. And when I first came to Washington, we'd have Republicans over, we'd have Democrats over to the House. They all knew each other. Their kids all went to school together. The wives all knew each other. And now they have to spend so much time back home raising money that they're not there, but, 2 or 3 days a week. And they only see each other when they come to the floor to vote. And so what used to be these great debates amongst people have become arguments among strangers. And when you have an argument among people who don't know one another, it's just a very different argument than if you know the guy on the other side of the issue. So how have you all managed? I mean, this show does not have a partisan slant.
Well, I don't think, I haven't heard the word Democrat or Republican on the show.
Yeah.
So that might be a good start for Washington. Just stop talking about it. But I think that's a real lead point. I'm very hopeful that we will keep that up forever.
Yeah.
I would like to avoid that because I think it in some ways is also it's a little bit of a play at how we could do this.
I think that's a very good point. And Tim, I mean, you've been coming to Washington a long time with the Creative Coalition and all of that, and you're kind of familiar with the animals in this particular city. How did you come to it? And how do you think you've managed to do that?
I mean, in the show?
Yeah.
Well, I think first of all, it's, as Taya said, we don't talk about it. And I think that we've come to a place where we've labeled people, and the labels stand for something that actually the words don't necessarily mean. Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. And I think by removing the label, it forces you to actually look at what the person is saying, rather than thinking that particular label brands them with certain opinions. And I think that it's a wonderful thing that we should do. And as Taya said, we should just do it in the whole country. Just get rid of it. Just start listening to what people are actually saying. That's right. I am fighting.
We really focus on showing process. That's another thing that people don't get to see all the time. We get the headlines, the result. And by going inside the State Department, pulling back the curtain on what their process is, what is their office like, what are they up against? It was really important to me. Probably one of the main reasons we wanted to do this was to introduce a discussion of politics again, which was not polarized and polarizing. And then when we got into it, we found if you focus on what everyone's up against and what they actually have to go through, and then issues of foreign policy and national security tend to be about immediate problem solving that helped us stay away from a lot of partisan politics.
And I think the issues are really complex, and because we can control our 42 minutes of network time, we're able to really delve and get into deeper, complex issues and look at it from all sides, not have what Barbara often says is two talking heads screaming at each other. We can really get behind the process of what goes on and find out why decisions maybe are made and why sometimes these decisions are really difficult to decide what's the right way to go. And I feel like the more that we know about what goes on with people that work in the State Department and diplomatic service, they are true servants of our country. And I'm hoping that we inspire some young people to go into diplomatic service by watching this.
Taya, I know in your family, there is kind of a long history of public service. Did you ever take part in politics or?
No, I mean, I think through my legacy really with UNICEF, there was.
Tell people what your grandma
Well, just
did.
that my grandmother was one of the founders of UNICEF, and then she actually founded the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, which is the first national committee that really supports their efforts around the world. And you know, I had a funny talk because I could on Saturday night with Madeleine Albright. And she said, we were actually, this is hilarious. When we got into our car, we had one of these big SUVs, and she like just gunned it, and like she's like this, getting into the way back. And she's all dressed to the nines in this red gown, and she's flaming right into the back seat. So I, of course, followed her. And we got in there, and she said, "Have you ever been interested in foreign policy?" And what are you wearing? And I said, well, actually, yes, I would say that I have always been interested in foreign policy, but it's really through the idea of how foreign policy affects children. And I used to say that a little bit more shyly, as if, well, I'm just concerned about the health and welfare of the world's children. But I'm really beginning to understand that the world's children are the world's greatest resource and the greatest asset. And maybe if we focused more on that, that might really be more of a solution than just a very kind idea. But
how do you, and I'll just throw this out as a question to all of you, how do you keep this show so much on the news? Because it's right on point. I mean, well, you all just saw this episode here. And I think that's, to those of us in Washington that like to watch it, that's what's so much fun, is it's right on what's going on.
Well, it's a little terrifying for us, actually. What we do, the story is set in my head about 4 years and a year, like 5 years in the future, one election cycle plus a year in the future, so we can believe all these people have been elected to office. And so what we do is we take current events as they're happening, but then we try to project where we think they're going or the most interesting place they could go. And sometimes we feel we're pushing it, the most dramatic place it can go. And what happens is, so there's a lead time of about a month before it goes on the air by the time we finish. And we get so close to the headlines that we're sometimes racing to sort of get ahead of what's really happening. We don't quite know how we, scrape the headlines so often. But it has happened on more than one occasion that even we were surprised with
Do you ever change a storyline because the news has changed?
We haven't yet. The North Koreans.
Yeah, do that.
Okay, so early on we put up a bunch of foreign policy stories or international events that could happen and just list them, and then we pick which ones we're going to do. So sometime back in last May, we put up a sentence that said North Korea threatens war over Hollywood movie. We put it up there, and it stayed up there all year. And I would come into the writer's room and say, "Why are we doing this North Korea story? I think it's great." And they go, "It's just so unrealistic." Now, that was a situation where we were glad we didn't do it, because if we had done it around that time, we wouldn't have been able to air it. It would have been a little too close.
You think it would have been?
I think it would have been difficult, but.
Tim, you're an actor. Well, you are.
That's true. That is a true statement, Bob.
Does anything ever happen in this show? I mean, would you ever do in this show something that you didn't think was right, or that...
I mean, something I disagreed with? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the tricky things about being an actor, is that you have to find ways not necessarily to... Well, I mean, I think, a lot of actors say that they need to love their character. I don't always feel that way, but I need to find a way to understand what my character is doing and why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. One of the great things about being an actor is that it teaches you empathy for other points of view. And if there's something that I wouldn't personally, do, it just challenges me a little more. Mm-hmm. And actually,
Koresh.
Well, David Koresh, there was that.
There was that one.
There was that one. But you know, in this show, it hasn't been too much of a challenge so far. I don't know what Barbara and Lori will see, but you know, it's exciting when that happens because you really have to kind of probe around and think what another person would do, what they're thinking, and unless they're insane, they might have a good reason for what they're doing, even though you don't agree with it.
What about you, Ted?
What was the question? Wait, what?
What if the character did something that you were just simply opposed to personally?
I mean, I think I've certainly played, most of my characters do things that...
but in a funny kind of way, this is a little different because you're...
Yes, this is a little different. I mean, we've certainly had discussions, I think, at times when we're curious about, you know, are we leading something? I think that's my only concern. And we haven't really come up with that. In fact, there have been some great discussions about what is going on in the world. And I do think there's a slight responsibility, which is not a whole lot of fun, about if we do this, if we put this out there. We'll see.
Because you are kind of a role model in a way. I mean, your character is a role model.
Well, we had an interesting, I thought a very beautiful idea that after, I don't know how much you all have seen, but Elizabeth comes back from a failed coup attempt in Iran, and there's a post-traumatic stress that clearly could and likely would take place. And how we dealt with that, you know, we were all being as delicate and gentle and respectful as we could. You know, this idea of what's the process and doing that research. And it is a very, I don't know, I enjoyed playing that. I enjoyed working inside of that. I found it very, it was moving to me.
And it could have happened. I mean, this is, as I say about this show, this is something that could actually have happened. This is not something that just, you know, comes out of...
No, I remember I did also have coffee with Secretary Albright.
You know, okay. You know what? You got to hang on for 1 second. Just 1 minute there, Buster. I am the one who...
Tim's girlfriend.
That's correct. Thank you very much.
It's out. It's done. They've been to 9 White House correspondents' dinners together.
I've known her for probably 6 or 7 years.
There's all this thing under the table. Okay,
look at the photos. We're holding hands. I met her at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We sat together one year, and we became good friends. I have to tell you, this is the truth. If you need to know a restaurant at any city in the world, she is the one to ask because she's been everywhere.
And they've been out together.
Okay.
But I was saying that when I had my own little coffee, I asked her about if she ever had been in a situation where she felt physically threatened. And she told me a funny story being in Prague. And she was driven to a bridge where she was going to have a discussion with a very important other person. And they picked her up in a white van, which she thought was odd. But she got in. And they drove her to the base of this bridge, and they opened these sort of sides, big wide door. And she got out, and they handed her her raincoat, which weighed 45 pounds because it was completely lined with Kevlar all the way. And, you know, she's a little busy, you know, I mean, sopping wet. And so she put on the raincoat and, you know, made her way out there, still not really asking questions, and had her meeting. And came back, and she said, was I in danger? And they said, no, not at all. And she said, well, what's the van about? And they said, oh, well, this is a Medivan. So if you were shot, you take this down like this. And she said, okay, great. We might be playing with that one.
But as we talk about these characters, Tim, what do you think? What is important about the character you play in this show?
Well, it's interesting, you know, because the sort of easy thing to take away from the show is that it's about a powerful woman. But there have been 3 female Secretary of States, and if you don't know that, you just haven't been paying attention. Yeah. And I think that sort of a subtler, but in some ways more powerful message is that here's this guy who is married to a powerful woman who is confident enough and comfortable enough in his own skin to say, "Go, girl, be as big as you can be." I think it's refreshing to see a competent man on television, because so often men are buffoons. Women come home and find the house a mess, and the children unfed, and everything a disaster. And I think that unfortunately, in some ways, this is a depiction of a marriage that is highly functional. It's not without its big challenges, obviously, but it's 2 people who are passionately dedicated to it and are working it out together as equals in the home.
You know, and I think that's very interesting, because I think you're exactly right. I mean, having lived and observed Washington as long as I have, I've known the husbands of powerful women, and some are good at it, some really enjoy it, and some never get used to it. I think the sweetest couple, Sandra Day O'Connor and her husband, he just adored her, and you just knew it in every way. He was proud of her, and he was, you know, a lawyer and quite a well-to-do lawyer, and was very good at what he did and all of that. But I always loved the way that he reacted to her and the fame that came to her.
Yeah, it's great to have a guy who's not threatened by his wife's success.
He wasn't threatened at all. I mean, she was even a better golfer than he was. But he still
haven't tested that one.
Laurie, what does an executive producer do?
That is a very good question.
What does a producer do?
Well, I come from the feature world, and so for those of you who know feature film, an executive producer on a television show is much like the producer of a feature film. On television, though, there's usually more than one executive producer. Barbara and I are both executive producers. And I like to think of it like we're the captain, we're the steerer of the ship. We have 120 people all helping us get where we need to get. And we're the people that kind of make sure that no one's coming and bombing us or trying to keep the bombs from landing on us, that keeping the naysayers away and keeping us all rowing, so to speak, in the same direction. We're the keeper of the vision.
I am astonished.
You're really good at it.
How you all are able to do this. This is not like making a movie. I've been around a couple of movie sets, and you do the scene, and then everybody goes back to the trailer and they rest for a while, and then they come back and they do the same scene. I had a bit part once in a film that Harrison Ford did, and they must have shot it 20 times, the same scene. And this, when I came up to see you guys and watch you do it, I mean, it just goes like this. I mean, you do a scene, everybody stops, you take a little teeny break, and then you do it again. And at the end of the day, you'll put in a 12 to 15 hour day.
Easy.
I mean, tell me what your day is like. How does it work?
Well, I mean, it was shocking to me. Because I've worked, I think, more in film or sitcoms where, you roll in Tuesday at around 10 a.m., do a little read through, maybe rehearse for a while, tell the writers, fix that. And then,
I did a little sitcom.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate description.
You really don't. There's lots of time. And this is, you're starting very early Monday morning. I mean, it's a 5 a.m. pickup, and then you work for however, maybe it's a 12 or 15 or 17 hour day, but then you have to have 12 hours before you can pull everybody back in. That's so that we all don't die. And then by the end of the week, things are a little bit later, and, you're having breakfast at 4 p.m. and, the system it's tough. I felt like by the 8th month, I was finally in the groove. I mean, I was on fumes in about to die, but I definitely was getting used to it.
And Barbara, the way it works, you have one director and kind of his team that does this week's episode, and then when he gets it done, he goes back to Hollywood for the post-production and puts it together, and then another director comes in and does the next episode.
Well, what happens is we basically shoot a movie every 8 days. So the team remains the same. The crew is always the same. The directors come in, they have a week of prep and then a week of shooting. So a director's always prepping, always shooting, and then always doing their post-production, which they have 4 days for a cut. And then we just move them through. But again, it's a system. Someone's always either prepping a director there with the director who's shooting or dealing with the director who's doing his post-production. We just move everybody through, but the crew and the team remains the
And when
same.
do you all see the script for the first time? On Friday?
That depends.
No, it never depends.
No.
There was a
days
script
before.
on the first day of prep, which is 8 days before we shoot, for every episode. So
Every 8 days, there's a new script.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Every 8 days.
So the first time they see a script is 8 days before we shoot it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on a lot of shows,
That's a lot.
they don't have that.
Actually, I have to say, I have done our drama. It was extraordinary how on time these writers were. They really did us a huge favor by getting them in on time.
We'll go to the questions from you all. I know you have some, but tell me how, and explain to them how you were able to memorize so much. How does that work? How does the process work?
I forget.
I can say that it took me almost 5 weeks to memorize the pilot. And the only thought in my mind that I had every day thinking that I was going to be memorizing a new script every 8 days was, let me think, oh shit. And there is no way that this can happen. And the odd part of it, and it is, I think, the truth, you get really good at it. Like, it might just be a muscle.
It's like a muscle that you train.
Yes, and it's incredible that by
and you do
the
it
end
by
of it,
scenes, don't
Yes.
you? And then how long after the scene can you remember the lines from that scene?
25 minutes.
Oh, really? I was going to say 25 seconds.
All right, let's get some. I think there's some mics out there. That was the first hand I saw go up.
Hi. First off, that episode scared a living bejesus out of me. I'm so glad the shows were new for season 2. I don't know if you can confirm or deny anything about that, but could you tell us a little bit about season 2 going forward?
Well, I'm on hiatus. I really can't, because we just did the first season and then we broke and went on hiatus, and we haven't really gotten together. We're going to do so at the end of May to start planning the second season. But I will say that, of course, we feel like this will be sort of her sophomore year, and then she has a little bit more experience under her belt, and she's a little more sure of what she's doing. And one thing I can say is that because there's a re-election for the president coming up, it will have a lot to do with that. That will be pending, and then
So we'll have an election year. This will be a
it'll be the beginning of
foreign policy during an election.
Getting all his ducks in a row for the election, and that will have a big effect on her. But I think basically what we're going to do is just sort of look at this year and basically make an assessment of what, were the really most successful stories that we told, and really kind of turn the heat up a little bit and really focus on broadening, what the scope of her job is in terms of now she has a better sense of how to do it. And what is that going to mean for her? So
Over here, this lady.
Except for Bob, I've probably watched more television than the four of you combined. But last night I did something I don't ever recall having done. I put it on when Jay was talking about the stoning. I turned off the sound while watching very intently to hear Madam President's first words. I wondered if you could talk just a minute about having something that, in a different kind of a show than the most violent things, was that graphic.
are you talking about this scene?
So last night when Jay was talking
When he talked about the stoning, and then you're talking about you wanted to hear what her first, Madam Secretary.
Any of you thought about putting that on the air in a show that was not expect it to be that violent. That's real violent details for.
Well, it was a passionate discussion about violent details that occur in the world. We didn't show it, but I think one of the things that we're up against all the time is our show can't be less dramatic and less controversial than real world events. So that was the thinking going forward. Well, of course we thought twice. We thought a lot about it, and we were involved.
Can I actually just say there were scenes in the original script that we got that were actually the stoning, that we had many, many, many discussions about how far do we go? How can we get our point across? This is something that happens all the time, all around the world, but it's removed from us. We don't want to see it. I don't want to see it, but we can't turn our backs to it. We've got to actually talk about it. And so
did you not do a lot of, didn't you have discussion with the Human Rights Campaign?
Absolutely. We worked very closely with the Human Rights Campaign. And of course we work with the network about how far can we push it? How much can we talk about this? So yes, a lot of thought went into it. But again, I feel like our guideline is we are talking about real world political events. And if it's happening in the world, we feel like we have to be able to talk about it.
Lady right here.
Some of my favorite scenes on the show are the family scenes. I love them. They're by far some of the best stuff that you guys do. And I love Wallace, and I love Catherine, and I love Evan. And how do you guys go about sort of making it? It's so real. It's so believable. I really want a whole episode just in the house, just you guys hanging out, playing board games and just like talking. So how do you guys go about sort of making those relationships come alive?
I was just going to say, Tim. Well, I mean, I think,
Okay, one of the things. Tay and I think, are both and have been and still are very passionate parents who have been really involved in our kids. And I think we're, both very successful parents, hopefully, today. We understand what goes on in the kitchen of a house. And, obviously it starts with the writing, but we have enough experience to be able to just mess it up, because families are messy. And a lot of times on television, all the dialogue is there, but a lot of times on TV, and especially child actors who have been trained, are very polite about when they say something. It's all very polite. And we throw all that out. Right? We just talk over each other and try to mess it up and make it more like a family that can have 3 or 4 conversations going on at the same time, where everyone can still hear and still respond. And it's fun and it's difficult and it's, wonderful.
There's a lady right there. Oh, I thought you... Yeah, sure.
Hi. My son is a student at Fordham, and I know you film a lot of scenes at Fordham. Will you be filming there again? And what other parts of New York do you film?
We will probably have a few scenes at Fordham, but maybe not as many as we did this last season, since Henry's job is changing.
Yeah.
Should I ask a follow-up here? All right, this lady right here.
I love the show where you had the retired Foreign Service person helping you. And I'm a little surprised by how junior the State Department senior team seems. And I wonder, Barbara, if you researched this and how you cast those parts or how you wrote the characters.
I did research it, and was actually really surprised at how young many of the important staffers are, and it's a little bit humbling. And I really did actually want to capture that, because I think people aren't aware of when people jump into these jobs, they do it feet first and very young and rise up very quickly. And then, we later in the year started to introduce more senior staff people, like the character of Mike B., who's a sort of ghost policy advisor, and he's somebody who's been around a little bit longer. But I did want to capture the flavor of how young a lot of the staff in Washington is, and that's where that research came from.
And that's a very realistic part, because a lot of the officials that'll be coming into the State Department, they will have been on Capitol Hill. and they will bring their aides with them, and a lot of times they're scary young.
Yeah, when I first went to Washington, I was briefed before going into, I can't remember, the senator's office, and at the last minute, as happens very often, the senator was called away to do something else, but they said, listen, this is okay because you are going to be meeting with his chief of staff and all his key consultants. I was like, great. And I went in and I was like, this is like a high school class. With high school students who are running the United States of America. And the story was that they are really important because they actually tell the senator what to do. Right?
Well, I'll tell you something, Tim. They'll start looking younger and younger.
Oh, yeah, they have. Thanks for pointing that out, Bob.
Right here.
Great show. And Barbara, I believe you mentioned that in the writing process, you project something like 5 years ahead. I was just wondering if there have been any thoughts of Secretary McCord running for higher office.
Well, we really hope we're going to be on long enough to have that problem. But I will say that the discussion has come up. I mean, obviously, how long is she going to have this post? It depends on this president. It depends on where her political aspirations go. Right now, of course, we still like developing this character who isn't political by nature, ironically, and ends up in this incredibly political post. So right now, she's happy with her job, but who knows?
There's a little trivia for you. I did a show called Commander in Chief, where Gina Davis played the president, a show that I very quickly and efficiently killed. I think I did 2 episodes, so I'm a little superstitious about it.
Okay.
I think we should wait as long, like
practice.
when we're all really sick of this and we want to tank it, then make her president. I'll take care of the rest.
Right here.
Hi, I'm a film student from Toronto, Canada, and it's my dream to be a producer. And I was just wondering if there's any advice you can give me on how one day I could be sitting exactly where you're sitting.
Wow. Honestly, find a story that you have to tell. Find a story that gets you up in the morning that, 100 people will tell you no. It only takes one person to say yes. And find that story that you feel like you cannot leave this planet without having people know. And that'll get your foot in the door.
That's good advice.
Who's next? Right here. Okay. And we'll get you guys too. Okay. I try to keep these folks with the microphones and keep them working out.
Hi. So first I want to say the show is amazing. The acting is incredible. That's what all my friends and I talk about. The acting is of a quality of a fine film. Seriously, the entire cast is amazing. The two of you are amazing. And thank you for bringing that back to TV. So my question is really, I guess, for Barbara and Lori. We have this big election coming up. We have a probable candidate who was a female Secretary of State. How do you feel that the show is going to be pulled into news cycles based on what may be happening in the show during the election process?
I think that's really unpredictable.
But with our track record,
Watch next season and find out.
I mean, one of the first things that was identified right up front is that there was the whole, before anyone had seen the show, was the suspicion that it was somehow boosterism for Hillary's campaign. And my joke was, if we wanted to get Hillary elected, there's so much easier ways to do that than to create a television show. And so, I hope it became clear to everyone that this was a character of her own creation. She is her own person. It's not really very like any of the 3 female secretaries of state. So whatever happens in terms of all of that being in the zeitgeist is something we kind of can't control, but we'll deal with it as it comes up.
I also think the exciting thing for me in the next season is that a lot of things are going to be happening. We're going to hear a lot what's going on with political campaigns. And because we shoot things in the air within a month or 2 months, we have the opportunity to be looking at what the country and what the world is interested in talking about, and maybe look at it and give a good even-handed look at those issues. So for me, we'll
love to take advantage of the fact that an election brings everybody back into the political discussion and makes them interested and focused on politics again. And we're there for you.
Right here, this lady.
first want to thank you for having a show with such a strong female character. I think it's a role model for many of the young girls who look up to what's on television, and that's what they aim for. My question, you kind of took some of my steam away with the question on Hillary Clinton, but I was curious, certainly Madam Secretary is compared to Hillary Clinton, and I was curious if anybody has spoken to her, what she thinks of the character, and also you were just with Madeleine Albright. Does she think that you're a good Secretary of State?
Well, she told me.
On your dates?
Oh, that was good. It was fun to go to Washington, I have to say, and to get a positive feedback from the people on the Hill. And I think no one was really saying, "Hey, Taya, we think you did great," which was odd, but I do think it was, I think there are shows out there with strong female characters, but maybe for the sense of drama, I don't know, there's a lot of kind of addictions or fetishistic kind of B stories, and there's the rogue guy in the background. And I think what I really was drawn to, and I think what's wonderful about this and what Secretary Albright responded to, is that we're interesting enough women. So I think this idea that this is a gal who is learning, who isn't necessarily a lifetime politician, but is learning quickly and fighting this hard and willing to give this much. We got a lot of nice positive feedback from Washington about that. And that really felt good, I have to say.
Well, it's time for us to bring this to an end. If there's one thing I know how to do, is get off on time. I think that's what we'll do. But let me just close by saying,